After an intense 9 months, and with both Nicole and I feeling the effects of sleep deprivation as new parents, it was time for a much-needed break away from the DIY before we embarked on our most ambitious project at the chateau yet. Our first stop was to see my family in Kent before heading to Sweden to spend some time with Nicole's family. Noah got to experience his very first flight, and then we made it across to the archipelago where Nicole's family's summer house is based. My sister crashed the party to join us for a few days. And we also got to catch up with Nicole's cousin Alex and her husband Lukash, which was wonderful. Noah got to enjoy his very first ferry ride and taste his first hot chocolate, and got introduced to all the family and meet his Swedish cousins under the glare of paparazzi. As has become tradition, no matter how cold the waters, we both jumped headfirst into the chilly waters of the Baltic, Nicole taking it in her stride, or should that be stroke, and took some much needed R&R. Before having to leave the beauty of the summer house behind and head to Uppsala, where Noah got to hang out with his morfar and mumma, his granddad and grandmother. We then said our farewells to Nicole's family and made our way back to France via the UK. Where he got doted on by his English cousins. We enjoyed a little bit of the Kentish coast. Before I completed a few days' work in London in the glorious sunshine, and then we found ourselves back in France, ready to take on our next big project. And you'll remember from the tour that we missed out a few rooms on the first floor. And they really are the focus of the next few months of works. Okay, so at this stage, some of you might well be thinking, why aren't we focusing our efforts on the roof? And actually, if you've seen our last episode where we spill some of the beans on the most asked questions we get, we actually go into detail into why we aren't doing that just yet, although we desperately want to. And yeah, so behind this door is essentially where the next few months will take us. And I just wanted to take a step back in time to show you what it looked like when we first bought the chateau back in 2021. And in fact, even before that, when we first visited it in November 2019, January 2020. You may remember what lay behind those doors when we first got the chateau. In this first room, which is due to become the kitchen, it was just bedroom space. And then through to what will become the snug, and then through to the future guest bedroom. And of course, we'd already done quite extensive demolition work, readying the space, from ripping down the plaster and the walls, opening the doorway to Narnia, to removing the tons and tons of rubble that made up the floor, and sandblasting the walls, and of course building the staircase. And then in what will become the dining room where we had camped, we'd already reconnected the kitchen to the dining room by opening up a doorway. We had meticulously removed all the heavy crépi from the walls to re-expose the stones. Then of course we'd sandblasted every single inch of stonework. Through this doorway here, this is the next big project, essentially, to transform this area, which is roughly about 125 square meters. So almost triple the space we have downstairs currently. turning this into our main kitchen. This will be the dining room, bedroom, and our snug for us. And of course, not forgetting the fact that we've already built the staircase going up to the second floor. By far the biggest challenge we'll be taking on so far, and really excited for what lies ahead. But as we found ourselves in this space now with the staircase and looking at the plans that we'd drawn up with our architectural designer, it just didn't quite make sense anymore. And so there we were, trying to imagine ourselves in the space with the walls up, and something wasn't quite as we'd hoped. And so we had to reposition a lot of what we'd originally thought in terms of where we were going to put the shower, the toilet, the sink, but we finally managed to make it work in the space that we had. But even when we first bought the chateau, we had this really clear vision of what we wanted to create, even if things were going to have to move around a little bit to make things work.
But we said, so this one goes.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're going to be doing the staircase, aren't we? So we need to figure out how that works. But I don't think we need the additional wall. We just need the wall that goes into that bedroom.
Yeah.
And so it will open it up, and then you'll just have the staircase, however that looks. I'm not quite sure how we're going to do that yet, but
we need some help with this. This is where I think we need architectural help.
Yeah, but then we could ask Alex's sister.
Yeah.
Or someone. Or John. Or someone.
But I am really wondering if we should keep this as the toilet for this room.
Yeah.
No, I think this is.
No, it's big enough, and also I think we can use the stairs to create a nook for it.
From a practicality point of view, if we're sitting in there eating and somebody's flushing the toilet, you kind of want pipes and things on this side, don't you?
Probably.
Even though for our bathroom it's going to be up there.
No, our bathroom's going to be there. Once we'd decided on the layout that would work for the space, the next job was to create the stud walls to delineate the bathroom and bedroom from the snug. We chose to make these out of wood so that they could also act as an additional support to the joists above. Reinforcing the walls with OSB boards created additional rigidity, which would make them load-bearing, which I'm sure is reassuring for everyone watching and not just us. Next up was to replace the floorboards on the ceiling above. And Nicole made a great start with Kurt on what is a pretty arduous task, ripping up the old floorboards, many of which had old nails, pretty much cemented themselves into the oak beams before laying the new OSB and trying to ensure the boards were level. And in addition to Kurt, we also had his mate and our mate, Tim, helping us out, which was a huge help and definitely sped things up significantly. And yes, you'll note that we were actually treating the beams as we were uncovering them from the floorboards and before we put the new OSB down. As the floorboards were going down, Kurt and I worked out the exact positioning for the new wall that would act as the entrance to the new bedroom that we were creating. But as with everything, every job, Everything always takes longer than you anticipate. And it took some time for us, even with the extra help, to get the new OSB boards down and secure. But what a difference it made once it was done. Tim and Kurt somehow even found time to play practical jokes.
So Mr. Kurt thought he wanted to keep me busy, so he decided to push the nails out for me. Woohoo!
Take the box upside down. Sorry.
But the good news is clearing up. We found
that.
How to build a chateau? Really?
What do we have here?
Frustratingly, our microphone stopped functioning properly, which means that so much footage that we had where we'd actually gone into detail and obviously talked to the camera was ruined. So instead you have to listen to me trying to recreate what was going on, which essentially was us trying to figure out at that point what beams were safe. There were a number of I think the building had moved at some point in the distant past, and some of the joists supporting the floor had definitely lost most of their support structure. And so we were looking at how we could brace some of those joists from underneath to make sure that the floor would not give way when we eventually move upstairs to build the roof terrace and our main bedroom. And it seemed Tim and Kurt weren't done joking around.
Ooh. Going up.
Do you fit?
Got a couple more.
Hang on, that's never going to work.
Although it has to be said, not having the sound on makes it a little easier to edit out Kurt's profanities. He still has the ability to swear like a sailor. All joking aside, we were straight on securing the new braces for the existing beams. Some joists actually were pretty rotten inside, and so we were adding extra strength to make sure that it supported the floor above. With others, we were actually bracing the main supporting beam so that the joists hanging onto that actually had something to hang on to because they pretty much slipped off and were literally hanging on by their fingernails. And you can literally see how precariously positioned, how precariously balanced those joists were. I'm glad we braced them. With the bracing done, we're on to lifting up the old floor and replacing it with OSB in the future main bedroom. Which is exciting, but yeah, that was a lot of OSB to move up. But also a lot of floorboards to dispose of. And unfortunately, we couldn't salvage all of them for recycling or reusing in our fireplaces because they'd been painted, which meant we had to take them to the déchetterie to dispose of them safely.
Here we go.
Oh, look at who it is! He's not allowed in our bedroom. No. How's he been? How's he been?
After briefly admiring our work to date, we got straight back to it to finalise the floor of the bedroom and future terrace. and we were so pleased with the final result.